What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Redriveraviation. Hope you guys had a fantastic day today, and today I have a triple model review for you guys. Today we're going to be reviewing 3 Delta Mad Dogs. Really excited for this, and I'm very excited to dive into these. So we have the Delta Airlines Boeing 717-200, also known as the Mad Pup in the MD-95. We have the Delta Airlines McDonnell Douglas MD-88, what a stunning aircraft, and we also have the Delta Airlines McDonnell Douglas MD-90 to review today. I really hope you guys are excited for today's trial review, and without any further delay, let's get started. So the boxes are all typical GeminiJets boxes, and they're at the bottom of my container. So I did decide to not get them out because you guys probably know what a GeminiJets box looks like at this point. But 3 really cool models, and I'm very excited to dive into these. So we'll dive into the commonplace one with the MD-88, and then the more obscure ones with the MD-90 and the MD-95 or 717. These DC-9s look fantastic, and I'm super excited to dive into them. So let's get started. Alrighty, everybody, so let's kick things off here with the MD-88 by GeminiJets. So I believe this is the latest release, 2018 or 19, I believe, is when this one came out. This is November 903 Delta Echo, and this is a really cool one. So fun fact about this one is I actually had one of the original releases back from 2014 or 15, but unfortunately my brother broke it, so I have this one now. So this is a really nice one though, and I'm super glad to have it in my collection. It looks fantastic, and let's dive into all the details on Delta Airlines McDonnell Douglas MD-88. Let's get started. I also got to fly one of these in 2019. I'll talk about that more here in just a second. Here are the cockpit windows that look really nice, and you also have some pitot tubes down here. Now I wish I knew what the name of this I don't know what the proper name for this is. Some sort of aerodynamic feature, probably. I'm very sorry that I don't know the name for that. I should, but nevertheless, we have that. We also have the nose cone in the nose landing gear as well. They're not perfect on this mold, but they're still pretty good and definitely not worth complaining about. Just a note for anybody that's interested in that. We also have the L1 boarding door with the SkyTeam logo here in the middle, which is really cool, and some sort of Delta advertisement here on the right side of that as well. We also have where I believe the stairs would come out here as well, which is very cool and a great characteristic of the MD-88. Right here we have the Delta Airlines billboard titles that look fantastic here, and then this is where your first class would be. I believe they have 8 seats of first class, possibly something like that. 6, 8, maybe 10. I believe it's 6 though. Actually, no, they're on both sides, I think, right? So, well, I'm trying to think about that. I think it might be 1 on one side and then 2 on the other, so it's probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 8. But anyways, something along those lines. So like I said, that's where your first class would be. Then you'd have your economy plus section, and along with that, you'd have your main cabin section. I believe these aircraft seat somewhere in the ballpark of 160, so that was a really good number there for Delta to be able to utilize it on a variety of services. Here are the overwing exits. They're very detailed and they look really nice, so I'm glad to get to see that right there. Of course, only 1 window in between the MD-88. We also have the slat detail right here as well, which looks really nice. Just a touch of wing flex, nothing too dire, but definitely something to note, so I just thought I'd point that out for you guys. We also have the main landing gear that looks fantastic too, in the speed brake and flap detail that you'll find here on the aircraft as well. Registration of this aircraft is November 903 Delta Lima, or Delta Echo, excuse me, as I was previously referencing. They have several Delta Lima prefixes on their MD-88s before they got retired, of course, in June of 2020. And then, of course, we have the engines right here. These look fantastic. Love the looks of them. They are so nice. We also have the windows back here behind the engine, which is one of the coolest characteristics of the MD-80. And I really give GeminiJets props for getting that detail, because that's easy one to overlook. It looks fantastic. And if you're an Ave geek and had to sit back there, if you don't like the engine sound, then you would have absolutely hated it. We also have the L2 door back there as well that looks really nice. And then we also have the buckets right here. Really good detail to represent those. So glad to get, well, you can't really see the outline for it, but it is really cool to know that that's where they would be, of course. And then, of course, we have the Delta onwards and upwards widget tail right here, which looks fantastic. Really like the detail of it. It looks really good. Along with that, we have the horizontal stabilizers here as well that look fantastic. And all your other applicable detail, including the door for the back there. And we also have the APU detail there too, which is really nice, and some inspection panels and all the 9 yards on that detail. So looks really nice on that side. On the right side of the aircraft, it is pretty similar to the left in all characteristics. You are going to have your luggage doors though, 2 on the front, of course, and 1 in the back right there. That looks fantastic. And again, you would have your windows right there too, which you do, which is very cool to get to see. And you also have the Delta widget here as well. And mine has some sort of speck right there. I'm assuming it's some sort of unfortunate paint smudge. Very hard to notice from a glance though, but the camera definitely does point it out really well. But ultimately fantastic on those details. Alrighty, everybody, so here is our side perspective. So here is the front. You can definitely see a little bit of wing flex over there on this side, but it's not the end of the world, of course. Just something to note if you are interested in getting one of these. It's only this particular release to my knowledge as well. I believe the other ones are free of wing flex, luckily. Here is the front left, and here's the left side of the aircraft. Here is the back left. Following that, we have the back, of course. Really good detail horizontal stabilizers at a really nice angle, both laterally and vertically. Laterally and horizontally, I guess. Here's the back right. And here is the right side, really nice on this side, turned out really good out here on the right side. And here is the front right, and lastly here is the front as well. Really good looking aircraft. I'd highly recommend it if you're looking for it. It looks fantastic. Let's jump into our MD-90 next. Alrighty everybody, next up we have the McDonnell Douglas MD-90. So this is another really cool aircraft. So I didn't really get very knowledgeable on the MD-90 for Delta till more recently. So Delta had a good number of these actually. I think they had somewhere in the ballpark of half 100 or so, and they really utilized these on a variety of routes. I was lucky enough to get to see them towards the end of their span in the aviation cycle, which was really cool. And it's really a very unique aircraft for a variety of reasons. So let's dive into the details on this, and I'll kind of even do a little bit of a mini model comparison here, kind of show you guys what we have going between these different aircraft types. So let's get started. Okay, so once again, this is also a different release here. This is November 903 Delta Alpha. I believe this is the first ever release they did, something like that, maybe the second. It is a 2014, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. So really cranking it back there, but a really cool model, and it's aged well in my collection. Here are the cockpit windows. Once again, this time you have a pretty good nose cone shape. Let me bring in the MD-88 as a reference here. You can really get to see the nose height difference. You can also see how bad mine's faded over the years as well. But anyways, you can really see the nose shape comparison along with the height in the cockpit window placement as well. Still a good job on the MD-88, but I just thought I'd bring it in if you're wondering what it looks like. Let me give you guys a little bit more light here. So yeah, once again, that looks good and it looks fantastic. This nose landing gear does actually roll, and it's probably one of the best rolling nose landing gears I've ever seen on a model airplane. So that is very cool, very nice note. Here's the L1 boarding door. You also have the SkyTeam logo and the hatch to get it open, which is very nice, and also where the stairs would be too. Here is the Delta billboard titles. They've faded a little bit, especially to tell, as you guys will see here in a minute. My aircraft's faded pretty bad over time. Kind of my fault for having it out in sunlight. Not really intentional, just some of my older models, it kind of happened. So it's one of those things. A couple more first class seats here. The length of the MD-88 and MD-90 is very similar. However, the 90 I think does have etched the seats. So that's where you're going to find those, along with some Economy Plus in your main cabin section, which is pretty similar to the MD-88. These probably seat like 175 or so if I had to take an assumption there, but something in that ballpark. Also, please disregard some of the fading in multiple places on this model. I know it looks horrible. One place is the emergency exits right here, but they do look really good. You also have two windows in between the emergency exits, one of the main characteristics and differentiating factors between the MD-88 and MD-90. Here's your slat detail. A really good job by GeminiJets for the nice and level wings. They look really nice. And here is the hatch to get, or not the hatch, but the pad to get off there. Looks really good. A little bit faded on mine, so I apologize about that. Still look good though. Here are the slat details, and then the flaps and speed brakes that look really good, and your main landing gear also do roll in this model, and they're really good. Very faded registration, especially that US flag, with the tail numbers November 901 Delta Alpha. Still is kicking though, looks good. Here's your L2 door, and then your engines are much different. Not exactly sure what the name is. I should know that off the top of my head. I don't think they're General Electric or Rolls-Royce, I think. I'm thinking it's one of those two. Could be completely wrong. Or, no, they're Pratt & Whitney's. I think they're Pratt & Whitney's. I'm almost 100% they're Pratt & Whitney's. I could be wrong on all three of those, but I need more knowledge and I need more time on my hands so I can figure that out. But anyways, really good detail on the bucket reversers, though. You can really see them here, which is very cool. So great job by Gemini for really representing that. So, of course, it would kick back out and you would see them there, which is really cool. And they look fantastic. And then of course you got your tail, which this version it is, or my particular model I should say, has faded really bad, but still very glad to get to see that. The other aircraft also has detail, and I'm sorry for overlooking it on the previous one, but you also have your fleet number 9201. Yeah, I think it's 9201 for 901 Delta Alpha. Very cool. Really good detail back here as well on the hatch, some expression panels on some APU stuff. You also have the horizontal stabilizers, which are really cool. This is actually a one-piece horizontal stabilizer mold, and you guys can even see that because mine are unfortunately a little bit loose, but you know, they're still kicking and they're still there. So glad to get to see it there, and it looks fantastic. Right side of the aircraft also contains some really nice detail for 2014, to be honest, including two luggage doors right there, which is very nice to get to see, and one in the back, of course, which is very nice. Just really good model overall. They have great detail on this one, in my opinion. They did a great job. Outside of the level wings, the MD-90 looks very similar to the MD-88 on the turnaround, and same thing for the 717. So I just decided that we'll hop straight into the 717 because they're all pretty similar for the most part. If you guys do need reference photos or anything, please comment below, and I'll try to get those to you through your preferred messaging method. Anyways, next up we have our last aircraft of the day, and the one that I've got to see the most as of late, and hopefully get to fly one in the near future. The Delta Airlines Boeing 717-200, also known as the MD-95 or the Mad Pup. So obviously other aircraft are known as Mad Dogs. Enthusiasts gave the name Mad Pup to this aircraft because obviously it is much smaller and a really cool aircraft. So a little bit of history for my younger aviation enthusiasts or anybody that may not know this. AirTran actually was the original operator of these Boeing 717s, I think from the early 2000s up until 2013. And when AirTran got merged with Southwest Airlines, Southwest did not want the 717s, unsurprising with their reputable history and fleet of the Boeing 737s. And Delta made a bid on these and got all 88 that AirTran had. So really, honestly, saving grace for Delta is they have really utilized these well and have long-term plans to keep them in the fleet for the immediate future. I think at least for another 5 to 10 years, which is very impressive considering they've already been with Delta for nearly 10. So, but critical for routes like Tulsa to Atlanta and, you know, your Minneapolis to Rochester, Minnesota's of the world and that sort of thing. Really out of Atlanta, these have been commonplace and have been a huge asset for Delta over the last many years. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I don't get bored of seeing these. I've got to see many of these at the Tulsa International Airport and also all around the country. Minneapolis, Atlanta, everywhere that I've been pretty much, I've usually ran into a couple of these. So really cool to get to see this. But nevertheless, let's dive into the Delta Airlines Boeing 717-200 by GeminiJets. This is the 2013 release, November 935 Alpha Tango. And there's many different iterations of these 717s. I think there's like 4 or 5 releases. Likewise goes for the MD-88, MD-90. So all of them are kind of different. So don't worry if your version's a little bit different. But I really hope we get another one of these soon with some aerials. That would be very cool from GeminiJets. But, you know, this version's still great. It's nice and simple and I like it. So nevertheless, let's dive into it. All right, so let's get the camera a little bit better in focus. I feel like it was a little off there. Looking good right there. Got the cockpit windows right here and the nose cone. Really nice detail here. It's a lot more curved on this version, I would say, compared to the other Mad Dogs. So cool to see from the Mad Pup. Here's the nose landing gear, also really nicely detailed. Again, this was a 2013 model, keep in mind. Here's the L1 boarding door, the SkyTeam logo, and also the latch to get the door open. So that looks really nice. Some Pitot 2 detail up here as well in the nose cowling, of course. And here's the Delta Airlines billboard titles. They did a really good job representing these. I think they look really nice. And luckily, this model is not faded near as bad as some of my others. So glad to get to see that, and it looks really good. So like I said, here's the Delta billboard titles and some first class up here before you get into Economy Plus, and obviously main cabin. These hold more like 115 to 135, it's somewhere in there. I think it's like might be 120 or so. I'm not exactly sure on the official number. Somebody, if you want to comment and help me out, thank you. I appreciate it, but I should know that. Nevertheless, it's somewhere in the ballpark, similar to the size of the 319. 5 columns, I guess, would be the right way to word it, or 5, because you have like, I think like 27 rows and then like 5 on each row, or yeah, 5 on each row. Yeah, that's how you'd word it, I think, something like that. So yeah, 5 seats times 27, somewhere in the ballpark of, it's something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Not doing math today. Here's the inspection panels as well, as you can see here. Then here's your emergency exits that look really nice in this aircraft. You also have your pad right there that looks really good for emergency exit. One-piece mold here, so honestly, I don't think it looks too bad. I think it works pretty good. You also have your slats, and you also have the underneath piece right there, which is pretty interesting on the 717. Then you also have the flap and speed brake detail that looks really good there too. And here's the main landing gear, nice and simple. They do not roll on this aircraft. I don't think the newer ones roll either, so they haven't made that change yet, but honestly, I'm good with it. The US flag did fade bad on this one too, so rest in peace. And then you also have the tail number. Yes, that dent's the only major issue with mine. Outside that, it's pretty much perfect model. November 935 Alpha Tango, and the fading there. That's about it. Everything else is really good. Here's your engines as well. They look fantastic. All the detail. You also see the windows making the appearance back there, so nice to get to see that. Kind of surprised they honestly put windows in there, but they did, so can't complain. It's a very unique element of the DC-9 variants. And of course, like we can see right here, the widget tail, and then we have our tail number of 9564, I believe is the fleet number on this one. And the horizontal stabilizers, also one-piece mold again. You have your door, your inspection panels, and all that fun stuff. So pretty similar to the others, but it does have some nice differences, including the door over here that I forgot to mention on the other two. This one also has it in the SkyTeam logo, which the others also do. So kind of forgot about that, but that's pretty cool. And then, of course, you have your emergency exits on this side, and also the luggage door. You only have one on this 717, so that's cool to see, but you do have one back there too. So really good detail overall, and they look fantastic. So let me bring in the other Mad Dogs, and let's talk about these a little bit. So here is the 717, and here is the MD-88, and last but certainly not least, the McDonnell MD-90. Alright, so you guys know how much I love Mad Dogs, and I'm so glad to get to feature all three of these today in my collection. They're really nice, and I'm really glad to have them all. So let's talk about this. So the very first one I got, I think it's the first one released, I could be completely wrong on that, or it may have just been the one that I was able to get at the time, was the MD-90. I got this in September of 2014. I've had it ever since. It's a great model. It's faded a little bit, but it's been a great workhorse. Utilized it in many airports. You know, my fictional ones that I had over the years, of course, Tulsa a little bit. This was a commonplace plane at Pensacola as well. I think I used it at Dallas several times too, so that it made many appearances, and it was a great aircraft for my fleet before obviously these all got retired, so I'm very glad to have that one. The next one I got was this 717. Actually, I might have got this one first. I don't think so. I think I got this in maybe March of 2015 or so. It's been a long time. Might have been, I think it was in, maybe it was in May, June, April, or March, or May, April, or I meant March, April, or May. There we go. Somewhere in that ballpark of 2014 or 15. I don't think it was 13. I don't think I got in 13, but maybe I did. It's been a long time, but I've utilized this and still utilizing it to this day for many airports and just my collection. It's one of my favorite airplanes. Very glad to have it, and it's a really nice asset. Flies Tulsa all the time, flies to Pensacola quite a bit, flies to Dallas every now and then. Let me think if I'm utilizing it anywhere else. Obviously, my fictional airports, of course, and just my collection. So, really nice airplane and very sentimental since I've seen so many of them. I don't know if I've seen 935 yet or not. I'm sure I have. I'd be shocked if I haven't. The MD-88 was the latest edition. Like I said, this was still the latest edition with my other iteration I got in 2015. Whatever the most recent release was, the March of 2015 would have been the one I got. I think it was probably 2014 release. I want to say 908 might have been the tail number, maybe. Not sure, but that's a thought. So I got that one, and that was great until my brother broke it. Then I got this one in September 2018. I've had it for almost a little over 3 years now. So obviously this was a workhorse, still got retired, and it's still a great plane for my collection to be able to take a look at and always reminiscence on the MD-88 itself, and I'm so glad to have it. I also have my 1200 MD-88 that I might do another review on in the future because that's a really cool plane as well. But very fond memories of these. I have been able to fly one of them so far, and that is the MD-88. I got to fly this in December of 2019 from Atlanta to Tulsa. It was a great flight on November 976 Delta Lima. My trip report is also on the channel for that if you'd like to see what that experience was all about. But it was a really bittersweet one. Was not expecting these to get retired 6 months later. They sure did. So I'm so glad I was able to do that because that was one of my biggest desires, because obviously American, shortly after shortly before I got to fly this one, retired there. So obviously I wanted to fly Mad Dog again. That might be my last MD-80 flight for a very long time at this rate. I really hope to possibly get on an MD-80 around the world. I think there might be some in Europe that are still active commercial, that sort of thing. So I'd love to get to fly one at some point again. When it's going to be, I'm not sure, but I hope to fly another MD-80 at some point in the future. 717 is more realistic though, as these are still flying. I have tried several times over the last couple of years to fly these, but it looks like my luck's not going anywhere, as I should be able to finally get on one here in the near future. Obviously these fly right now, and as of late, 4 times a day to Tulsa, so I should have no problem getting on one in the near future. So I'm very hopeful that I'll be able to get on one very soon. Should be a great time. I'm unfortunately probably never going to get to fly an MD-90, at least for Delta, as these also went together. So these were great airplanes, though. They were workhorses, especially out of Atlanta, but you'd find all 3 of these aircraft in Minneapolis, Detroit, New York, LaGuardia, I believe, particularly. I don't think these were really out on the West Coast very much. 717 might have been a little bit, but I think these two really weren't. So actually, the MD-90 might have been in Salt Lake City a little bit early, way back in the day. So I would have to go back and do some big time digging on that, but I think these were more commonplace in the East Coast regions, so in the northern regions as well. So really cool to get to see that. I believe the last revenue flight for both these, this guy was to Washington IAD, Washington Dulles, on June 2nd, and this one was to Houston, I think was the last revenue flight a couple of years ago. So yeah, but they've been awesome aircraft. I'm so glad to have the models of them. I'm very excited to see how I can utilize these in the future. 717, hope to get another one at some point, not necessarily because another one's going to help out my model airports that much, but just for some updated aerials and everything. So Gemini, I think a Delta 717 re-release would be very helpful, even though they've done several. They were releasing like Delta 757 300s and A220s and that sort of thing. So I bet another 717 would be great for them. Outside that will do for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the review on these DC-9s. They're really cool aircraft. Very great memories with these guys. And I'm really excited to see where it can go from here, and I hope you guys are as well. So with that being said, that will do for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe. Trust process. Do what you love and love what you do. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon as Redriveraviation is signing off.